Hello, my name is Portia Reddick-White, Vice President for Strategic Partnerships at the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. Really excited to be with you today for our sponsored Learning Lab entitled Team Vaping Epidemic, Strategies and Tools for Parents and Teachers. Our session participants today from Truth Initiative and PTA parent, Amy Taylor, who is the Chief of Community and Youth Engagement. From the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, Caroline Goncalves-Jones, who's the Director of Advocacy and Outreach. And from PAVe, Parents Against Vaping Epidemic, is Dorian Furman, co-founder. So happy to join you. And could each of you kind of just share a little bit about who you are and what you do, starting with you, Amy?
Sure. Thanks for having us today. As Portia said, I am a proud PTA president for my son's middle school in Arlington, Virginia. I've been involved in advocacy, politics, and advocacy for my entire professional career, building movements, really understanding what's important to young people, ensuring that they understand that they have a voice and their voice matters, and really encouraging them to speak up and make change in their communities. And I'm very excited to be a part of Truth Initiative, which is an organization that's been around for about 20 years. And what we do is we talk directly to young people about vaping and smoking. And our goal is to create a place where smoking and vaping is a thing of the past. And really happy to be here today. I know many parents that I talk to in my PTA really believe that this is an important, crucial issue, even in a pandemic. And I'm really excited to be here with this amazing crew to be able to give you tools and strategies to help in your community.
Thanks, Amy. And from Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, Caroline?
Hi there. Thanks so much for having me. And I'm Caroline Goncalves-Jones, Director of Advocacy and Outreach at the campaign. And I've worked in public health for many years now. And at Tobacco-Free Kids, we're working very similar and in partnership with PAVe and Truth to reduce tobacco use and its deadly consequences in the United States and around the world. And what we do is we're an advocacy association that's working to change public attitudes about tobacco and promote proven policies that are most effective at reducing tobacco use and saving the most lives. And we're so thrilled to be here to talk to PTA parents and teachers, because we know you have a tough job, of everything that's going on with not only the vaping epidemic, but kind of the world that we're in today and figuring out next steps with school next year. So we're hopeful that we can help guide a little bit in that conversation today. So thanks, Portia.
Thank you, Caroline. And Dorian from PAVe.
Thank you, Portia. I'm one of the co-founders of Parents Against Vaping e-cigarettes, PAVe, and we're a national grassroots education and advocacy organization. We founded PAVe when we discovered in 2018, along with my two co-founders, that Jewel had sent her representative into our kids' school to speak with the 9th grade class during an anti-addiction talk, and told the class that Jewel was totally safe and about to get FDA approval, neither of which was true. Shortly thereafter, the FDA and the Surgeon General declared a youth vaping epidemic. So today, we have dozens of chapters around the country. We educate parents and other adults about the dangers of flavored e-cigarette products. And we advocate to end the sale of all flavored tobacco products, which addict kids. So I'm so happy to be here with this amazing group. My colleagues have devoted their lives to this fight, and I'm grateful to be a part of it. So thank you for having us.
Thank you. So we're going to start our session today and with you, Caroline. Can you share a little bit with us, with kids returning to in-person school in the fall, and what do parents and teachers need to know about youth tobacco use and how harmful these products are to our kids?
Thanks, Portia. And, this is really the crux of what we want to talked about today. It's really a great question and one we're really concerned about the fall. And so I want to talk a little bit about what we know and what we don't know, given we've lived in a different world this past year. The first thing and most important thing to note is that we're still in the midst of a youth e-cigarette epidemic as defined by FDA and CDC, as Dorian said. The latest surveys have e-cigarette use among high school students around 20%, meaning 1 in 5 high school students is using e-cigarettes. 3.6 million kids overall are using e-cigarettes. So we're still in a public health crisis here. And what's most concerning is the level of addiction that we're seeing among youth. The percentage of youth who use e-cigarettes frequently is growing, which is an indicator of serious addiction. In 2020, 38% of high school e-cigarette users reported vaping on 20 more days per month. And over 22% reported daily use. So that's over 730,000 middle and high school students vaping every single day. What this tells us is that kids are no longer just experimenting with e-cigarettes, but they're using them frequently, leading to an addiction that is difficult to break. And so what concerns us here is nicotine is not safe for a young person. Because adolescence is a critical period of growth and development, exposure to nicotine may have lasting adverse consequences on the brain development, which continues until age 25. In particular, nicotine can harm the parts of the adolescent brain responsible for attention, learning, moods, and impulse control. So, we have to look at this holistically. This is not good for our kids. A single Juul pod has the same amount of nicotine as an entire pack of cigarettes. Adolescents are more likely to experience nicotine dependence at lower levels of exposure than adults and can feel dependent after just minimal exposure and within a relatively short period of time. So these products are hooking our kids so quickly. And then it's really, really, really hard to quit. So in addition to nicotine, youth e-cigarette users are inhaling harmful substances like toxic chemicals and metals like nickel and lead. So I don't know about you, but those are things that I don't want my kids to have in their bodies. And nicotine can prime the brain for addiction to other drugs, and youth and young adults who use e-cigarettes are more likely to use combustible products and cigarettes. So that's e-cigarettes and vaping, which are incredibly concerning among our kids. But we also want to address some of the health equity issues that are out there related to other tobacco products. While e-cigarettes are the most used tobacco product by youth overall, cigars are popular with Black youth, and Black youth use cigars at about the same rate as cigarettes. And Hispanic youth also use cigars at a higher rate than cigarettes. About half of high school smokers use menthol cigarettes, the only flavored cigarette that's on the market currently. And preference for menthol is also disproportionately high among lesbian, gay, and bisexual smokers with mental health problems, socioeconomically disadvantaged populations, and pregnant women. So we want to be aware of not only vaping, but all the tobacco products that are out there that are specifically targeting and our kids are using. And it's usually the flavored products too. And so in talking about school in the fall, we can't forget about COVID, right? The other public health crisis that's out there. And leading public health organizations and experts are saying that, smokers and e-cigarette users may be at a higher risk for severe illness if they contract COVID-19. So that is something we need to be incredibly concerned about with our youth, especially youth who hopefully everyone will be able to get the vaccine and be vaccinated, but some younger youth won't be able to yet by the fall. And we need to protect those kids too. So the coronavirus attacks the lungs, and behaviors that weaken the lungs put individuals for a greater risk for the COVID. And so there's conclusive evidence that smoking increases the risk for respiratory infections, weakens the immune system, and there's a growing body of evidence that vaping can also harm lung health. So all things that we need to be aware of as we think of going back to school in the fall. And in thinking of returning to full-time in-person school in the fall, parents, teachers, and administrators already are going to have an unimaginable amount of issues to deal with. And we're pretty sure that vaping will be one of them. We've anecdotally been told of third graders drooling under their masks in school. Kids have been using e-cigarettes with with probably high frequency at home without really being looked after. And we hear teachers say they can tell their kids were doing it at the Zoom, but how can you really expect a teacher to police over Zoom or virtually? So the return to school is going to be jarring for a lot of kids, and parents and teachers are going to need to be prepared and aware of the dangers and health harms that tobacco products pose. So schools are a great place for intervention and cessation resources, and I know my colleagues here will both talk about those. And that school environment can play a huge role in preventing initiation and supporting cessation. So what's really the basis is these products are not good for our kids, and we need to be incredibly concerned and incredibly ready to be ready when our kids go to school and they are introduced to them again for the first time. Maybe they've been away from them, or those that have developed an incredible addiction, help them to learn how to quit. So we need to help our kids deal with their addiction and prevent them from starting to use. So that's kind of that answer there, Portia.
Thank you. Thanks, Caroline. I mean, really great points of knowledge, things that we need to remember, and really appreciate hearing that. It's amazing. 3.6 million youth, using? That's crazy. So Amy, next question is to you. Would love to know what you're hearing from young people about their struggles with vaping and nicotine addiction. Caroline's done a great job in explaining, what kind of lies ahead. Can you share a bit more here, please?
Absolutely. Thanks, Portia. Our organization spends most of our time talking directly to young people. We have people out in the field that are working with teenagers, working with college students. We spend a lot of time asking them, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? What are the problems in your community? And really universally, we're hearing from young people that they don't think vaping is harmful, right? They see their friends doing it. They're at a party. They think that it's less toxic than smoking. And if you think about all the facts that Caroline just laid down, for young people, they know so much less than even we do as parents. And so we really are trying to understand what it is that they're coping with. And right now, particularly during a pandemic, is mental health is a serious, serious problem for our kids, right? We see it every day in our homes. And many of them believe that vaping is helping them cope with the stress, right? That gives them a hit, a jolt. And it makes them feel better. And they don't realize that they can become addicted so quickly because there is such high levels of nicotine in them. They also listen, they think it's something cool, right? These vapes some of them look like USB ports, and it's no surprise that they look similar to Apple products, right? So they see the cool, as always, they see the cool kids using these things, and people are trying to emulate them. And I think they also don't realize that vaping is not a choice, right? It's not their choice. Big Vape has been targeting young people from the beginning and trying to manipulate them to use the products by putting young, attractive models out there, having a great time, sending out social media in ways that we as parents will never see because they're targeting them very specifically. And so what I wanted to do is to share a story of one young man, Jalen. We launched a campaign through the Truth Campaign called Quit Together, where we worked with a handful of young people to talk to them about, well, they've been vaping and what has their struggle been. And I thought, what better way for you to hear about this epidemic than from one young person. So I'll share that with you now.
You take it apart and you squeeze the cotton down. It squeezes out a little bit more juice, and then you hit that. I mean, I don't think I've ever said that out loud, but that's definitely like fiend-ish.
What's it really like to break a nicotine addiction? This is Jalen. He recently quit vaping after years of juuling, and now he's seeking support from This Is Quitting to stay quit.
I originally started hitting it because it was just around. When you're first hitting a Juul, it gives you a very heavy head rush. The buzz feeling, it felt good. It became a trend. Cool kids had Juuls. After a while, the cool kind of fades off and you're just, addicted.
The line between social vaping and addiction often blurs quickly.
I guess when you form the addiction is when it becomes more to combat the emotions you feel with hitting the vape. When you start feeling these emotions, you reach for your vape. Believe it or not, video games can be stressful at times. Hitting the vape is a way to combat that stress. Me and my friends actually had a saying, and it was tap, nick, reset. When we all died, we just hit the nicotine and reset. It is kind of crazy thinking about there was a time I didn't do this.
Some quitters find additional support from This Is Quitting, a free anonymous text-based program that can provide insight to the quitting process.
It's definitely a good tool because it helps you identify triggers, because you're not the only one with those triggers. Other people have those same triggers, and the text string kind of highlights that. I just woke up. Regaining consciousness after sleeping is a trigger for me. The feeling of not wanting to act on your triggers probably took a month. I've actually noticed that I started biting my nails again ever since I stopped vaping. If that helps me cope, then so be it. At this point, the urges aren't very strong. Before that, it was a battle. I don't feel the triggers anymore. I've identified them so much to the point to where I know exactly what they are when they'll come on. Identifying, I feel this and I want to hit the vape, that does help. It's just easier for me to know when I'm gonna start fiending.
To return to that time and stop vaping isn't always so simple though.
It was hard at first just because of the withdrawals alone. I had a lot of morning sickness to the point to where I couldn't function for the first hour or two of my day. When you tell your friends you're gonna stop, they don't believe you. Just like you, they've tried to stop before. I related to saying I wanted to stop and not, but it comes to a point to where you have to decide what you want and then you have to follow through.
To win the many day-to-day battles of addiction, quitters must rewrite their internal dialogue.
I'm just thinking about how to combat vaping when you have relationships with people that vape. And the only way you do that is have your mind set that you're not gonna hit it. So when you see your friend hit it, you don't even think about hitting it. I stayed the night at my friend's house. He's a vapor. I managed to stay strong through that.
Additionally, many quitters displace their addiction with productive, healthy habits.
Having something to occupy your mind is really what it comes down to. Because if you let stressful things like your work, failed relationships, if they take up your mental capacity all day, every day, it's hard to put any effort into anything else. Now, obviously you can't work out all day, but during that hour and a half that you're pushing your mental, you're not vaping. My post-workout sandwich, much better than a buzz. The endorphins from working out, a lot better than hitting a vape and getting sick.
Quitters should reflect on and enjoy their victories. Eventually, urges will feel like a thing of the past.
I haven't hit a vape in about a month, almost a month and a half. I'm probably most proud of the decision to stop and actually doing it. It definitely feels like a mini victory. After that, each one gets easier. It took multiple tries and it took research. Keeping your eyes set on the future definitely does help. You can do what you put your mind to.
If you're quitting, text DITCHVAPE to 88709.
Well, that's Jalen's story. We're going to talk more a little bit later about This Is Quitting, which is an excellent resource that your kids can use anonymously to help them quit if in fact they are vaping. So thank you, Portia.
That was great. What an eye-opening actually video. Really appreciate that. So, at the beginning, I actually didn't give you full credit, Dorian, for PAVe. And it was a slip of the tongue, basically, because what you all do, what PAVe does is fight this vaping epidemic. But I realized that PAVe is Parents Against Vaping E-Cigarettes. And with that, I would love to hear from you. We've heard from Amy on the struggles from the young person's point of view. But how can parents tell if their kids are vaping? What are the signs?
You know, Portia, that's a really good question. And when you look at the numbers, Caroline mentioned 3.6 million kids are vaping, and they're vaping more and more frequently. 1 in 4, 1 in 5 high school kids are vaping regularly. So it's hard to tell sometimes if your kid is vaping. These products are stealth by design. So they're easily hidden. They look like other devices. They can look like flash drives and such. So you can't always tell. I'm going to share my screen because I do have a list that I will go through. So these are, this is a handout that we hand out when, or we email now, but they are just some indication of how to tell if your kid is vaping. Obviously, 1 or 2 of these signs does not mean, oh, automatically your child is vaping, but it's a culmination. And I think everyone really does know their child, so you can tell when something's a little different. Teenagers are an enigma as it is, you know, they're changing constantly and they have new friends and you don't always know what they're doing. But I think if you see, you know, frequent excuses to go outside or to go to the bathroom, if they can't sit through a dinner, a family dinner, if they have to constantly leave the room, something might be up. A sweet smell in their room. I had said earlier that these products are stealth by design. They smell very sweet also. And for instance, when my son was in 9th grade and coming home from, you know, being out with his friends, he smelled very sweet. And at first I thought maybe he had a new girlfriend, you know, because it was like this very sweet, clingy scent. And later I found out, of course, that it was Juul, but there are so many more devices now. There's Juul, there's Puff Bar, Miley Mini, but it can also be a sweet smell in their room. You know, they might put candles to kind of camouflage that it's the candle and not a vape that's making the smell. If you notice that they're coughing more or drinking more, the propylene glycol in the product pulls the moisture out of the mucous membrane. So they do end up with a dry, raspy cough. They can end up with nosebleeds or nose sores, mouth sores. And then if you just notice that there are cords and wires everywhere or caps, you know, before Juul pulled back and ended the sale of some of their mango or fruit medley pods, you would have all sorts of different color plastic caps around the child's room. You know, you now have what looks like USB sticks, but in different colors, and those are different devices. If they're secretive, if their door is always closed, I mean, as I said, they're teenagers, so it's really hard to tell, but if they really seem to be hiding something. And then changes in sleeping patterns, that's a big one. You know, these devices have high levels of nicotine, and nicotine is a stimulant. So it can keep them awake and it can make them very jittery also. I mentioned the raspy cough, but if they have lung infections, you know, earlier, Caroline mentioned COVID, and COVID is a big issue obviously these days, and you don't want anything that can damage your immune system or your child's lungs. So this is a really big issue. And then chest pain, you know, we have parents whose kids have asthma and have had catastrophic results, or just athletes who used to be these star athletes and can no longer last an entire game. So that's a big issue. And then anxiety. Very often these kids, as you saw in Jalen's video, he said that sometimes he used vaping to cope with anxiety. And it's kind of a double-edged sword because it can help you cope with anxiety, but then it builds the anxiety because you're always trying to figure out when you can have the next vape and when you can get the next hit. So the anxiety, the irritability, mood swings, depression, anger, these devices can help, but then they can also exacerbate and make it so much worse. So it's really, really, really a problem. And then the gastrointestinal issues are also a big deal. Again, the kids have nicknames for everything. They call it Nixic. And when you are ingesting these high levels of nicotine, you have all sorts of gastrointestinal issues. Sometimes the weight, you know, these kids can drop extreme levels of weight, and it affects your body on so many different levels. So again, be aware. It's not always easy to see what your child is doing. You know, we talk about teenagers, but we have found, as Caroline mentioned, that sometimes, you know, there are third graders or fourth graders who are using these. So you have to really be aware and just look and see what your child is doing.
You talked about the sense of smell as one of those items that you can actually sense if your child is using, depending upon, you know, what you're smelling when you walk into their room, etc. So the next question, really going to Caroline, really has to relate with taste and smell. They're two different senses, but they're both related in that they actually contribute to the experience of flavor. And with that in mind, what role do flavors play, Caroline, in hooking kids to tobacco products?
Yeah, this is a critical question, right? So flavors play a major role in youth use of e-cigarettes and other tobacco products because they mask the taste of tobacco and make it easier for new users to initiate use. The sale of flavored cigarettes other than menthol or tobacco flavor is banned as of 2009. However, that doesn't extend to other tobacco products like e-cigarettes and cigars. Flavored tobacco products are just as addictive as regular tobacco products, and these flavored products are totally undermining the nation's overall efforts to reduce youth tobacco use and really putting a new generation of kids at risk of nicotine addiction and the serious health harms that result from tobacco use. So we say flavors hook them and then the nicotine keeps them addicted, right? So there's over 15,000 unique e-cigarette flavors. Sales of flavored cigars have increased significantly since 2008 when cigarettes were other flavored cigarettes were banned. And while overall cigarette sales have been declining, the proportion of smokers using menthol cigarettes, the only remaining flavored cigarette, has been increasing, and menthol cigarettes comprise more than 36% of the market in 2018. So studies show that flavors play a major role in youth initiation. And although we've had major significant progress in reducing youth cigarette smoking in recent years, there's been no progress in reducing overall tobacco use in a decade due to the popularity of flavored products like e-cigarettes and cigars. So 81% of youth who have ever used a tobacco product initiated with a flavored product. At least 2/3 of youth tobacco users report using tobacco products because they come in flavors I like. So if we look closer at e-cigarettes and flavored e-cigarettes, the most recent youth tobacco survey found that an increasing proportion of youth e-cigarette users reporting using flavored products in 2020, 82% used a flavored product, up from 68% in 2019. Nearly 3 million youth use flavored e-cigarettes. So if you think about the number we talked about, how many youth are using e-cigarettes, 3.6 million, and 3 million are using flavors. Pretty clear what's attracting them to the product. Among high school students who currently use any type of flavored e-cigarette, you know, the most common flavors are fruit, mint, menthol, candied, desserts, and other sweets. So all things that are specifically targeted towards kids. And you may remember hearing about 2 years ago now that the FDA was going to take on removing flavored e-cigarettes from the market, given the youth e-cigarette epidemic. Unfortunately, the policy that they put out was woefully lacking and only restricted flavors, except for tobacco and menthol flavors in some pre-filled products, leaving countless flavored e-cigarette products widely available. Juul, the most popular pod-based product, had already removed their flavored pods other than menthol and tobacco from the market when the policy was even announced. It was made for them. And Juul removing their flavors from the market was actually a really incredible piece of saying exactly what we've been saying for years into action. So, and they didn't do this because they're a good company. They did this because they had pressure to do so. So in no way are they the good guys for removing those products from the market. But when Juul removed their fruit and mango pods from the market, you know, they left mint and menthol on. We saw a surge of youth move to mint-based Juul. So then Juul moved mint off the market. We saw a surge of youth move to menthol-based Juul, which is still on the market too, and what most kids are using. So what this tells us is if flavors are left on the market, kids will find them. And that is the reason that kids are using them. We will see that increase of moving to wherever the flavor remains. So disposable e-cigarettes, a product that was left on the market with that policy, something you might have heard of, Puff Bar, which is another really popular product out there, come in a wide array of kid-friendly flavors like cotton candy, strawberry, mint. They're really popular now. And among high school current e-cigarette users, use of disposable e-cigarettes increased 1,000% from 2019 to 2020. Because they were the new cool thing to have on the market and even easier to hide than Juul. And again, we don't want to forget combustible products that are left on the market. Flavored cigars, which come in a wide array of flavors like banana smash or cherry, are cheap, usually 2 for $1, especially good for price-conscious youth. And menthol cigarettes, the only remaining flavored cigarette, are popular among youth. More than half of youth smokers smoke menthol cigarettes. And again, the health equity issues, more African-American youth use menthol cigarettes, and African-American smokers as a whole, 85% of African-American smokers use menthol cigarettes. So the cooling mint flavor of menthol numbs the throat and masks the harshness of tobacco smoke, making it easier to initiate and to kind of become addicted. So it's pretty simple. This is about protecting our kids, right? And the scientific evidence makes it clear that flavored products have the greatest appeal to young users. So if we remove those products from the market, we're going to have an incredible public health impact and protect our kids. Portia.
Well, with these resources out there, Caroline, thanks for sharing that, and the increased flavors that are out there, increased products. Amy, would love to hear from you on what resources Truth has for parents and teachers to help prevent kids from vaping. And if they're vaping, how do you help them quit?
Sure. Well, thanks for that. So I don't know about you, but I'm a little bit scared about kids going back into the schoolroom full time. For my kids have been on a hybrid program, and they'll have more flexibility as they walk around the high schools. They'll be able to go to the bathrooms like they used to without increased monitoring. And that's where we saw a lot of young people vaping. My principal alone would have to basically have somebody in the bathroom to make sure that people weren't juuling in between class periods. So what do we have? I am super excited about 2 resources that you can get today, and both of those resources are free. The first one is a virtual school-based curriculum called Vaping Know the Truth. And we created this resource in partnership with Kaiser Permanente, the American Heart Association, and an online curriculum developer called Everfi. Now, I have to tell you, these people are the best in the business, and they know what they're doing. They know the science. Everything in our curriculum is evidence-based. And what we bring to the table is we know how to talk to young people. This is not a curriculum that's finger wagging. It really talks to youth in their own voice. And I'm going to share a quick video to give you an overview of what this program is.
Today, 1 in 5 high school students are vaping e-cigarettes. The Surgeon General has declared it an epidemic. Now, Truth Initiative, the nonprofit behind the nationally recognized Tobacco Prevention and Education Truth campaign, has created Vaping Know the Truth, a first of its kind digital learning curriculum available free to schools nationwide. It's prevention focused to keep students from starting. And for those who are already vaping, the curriculum links directly to This Is Quitting, the only proven effective text message program designed specifically for youth and young adults that is already helping hundreds of thousands on their journey to quit vaping. Whether in class or at home, students will complete 4 self-paced lessons. Students will learn the facts about e-cigarettes, the history of tobacco companies' manipulative marketing tactics, the dangers of nicotine addiction, and keys to self-care and quitting. Just as important as what students learn is the unique way they'll learn it. Vaping Know the Truth deploys peer-to-peer video, engaging quizzes, and a format that allows students to go at their own pace, and is delivered in Truth's authentic youth voice. The program was developed together with Kaiser Permanente and Everfi, and in collaboration with the American Heart Association, trusted voices in youth education and health. Vaping Know the Truth is already helping students across the country. Youth vaping is a problem, but we have a solution. Working together, we'll make smoking, vaping, and nicotine a thing of the past.
We've had almost 150,000 young people engage with this curriculum already, and we just launched it in December of 2020. And we are going to be spending the summer talking to school superintendents, to principals, to really anybody who is in a leadership role, including you as members, to say, here's the resource. We'll give you links on how you can get more information and how you can provide this resource to your schools. I think what is most exciting about this curriculum is the feedback that we're getting from young people, that young people feel like we're talking to them on their level, that we're not finger wagging, that we have fun games in the program. And it really is young people hearing from other young people about how they're dealing with the vaping epidemic. So we've had great feedback from teachers and young people alike. So that's one resource. The second resource is called This Is Quitting. And what is this? It is a text-based program that young people can sign up for anonymously. So we have a program that's appropriate for teenagers, 13 to 18. And then we have a tract for young adults, 18 to 25. And it's very easy. All you have to do is write on your text DITCHVAPE to 88709. Again, that's DITCHVAPE to 88709. And your child, your kid's friends can sign up for the program. And as it said in the video, it really helps young people with the triggers, right? Why are they hitting their Juul? Why are they hitting their vape? Because they're stressed, right? So we give them advice about other things that they can do. And through this program, and we're evaluating it, again, it's all evidence-based, is that we're finding that about half of the young people who are going through the program reported either quitting or reducing vaping, because really they don't know how to quit, right? The industry has manipulated in them to become addicted to a product. And so we have a tool that is proven effective and is available to your young person, your children right now. So please take a look at that as well.
Thank you for that, Amy. Really helpful information. I hope people will really adhere and sign up and listen in. Dorian.
And Portia, just to say, we have almost 500,000 young people who have signed up for this program, and about half of them are teenagers, 13 to 18. So think about it: a young teenager signing up, sick of the way that the vape has gotten control of their lives, to sign up for this program. So it's very exciting.
That says a lot about, number one, the program, but it also says a lot about the prevalence of this issue with our kids. You know, I have a 13-year-old, so I definitely can relate, and I'm just as interested in prevention and making sure that there is an answer for them to go to. Dorian, our last, but almost last, I would say, question today, because I know that our session will be closing soon, goes to you. And that question is, how can parents talk to their kids about vaping? You know, with what we just heard from Amy, with that whole age length of kids who have this problem, from late elementary to middle school versus high school. How can parents talk to kids about vaping?
Yeah, thank you, Portia. I think that's such an important question. And, you know, I was so interested to hear about Truth Initiative and their program, because it's a partnership between schools, between parents. I signed up for the Truth text app because they also offer a component for parents who want to help their kids. So I wanted to help my son. And it's amazing because in 1997, 28% of high school students smoked cigarettes. And through the hard work of parents, schools, public health organizations such as yours, the government, we all brought that number down to about 6% in 2017. So it was a huge success story. And then Juul came along and started this youth vaping epidemic. And all of a sudden, we'd been talking to our kids about cigarettes, but we'd never talked to them about e-cigarettes and vaping. So all of a sudden the numbers started to climb. And so it's really important to talk to your kids. It's really important to talk to them from a very young age. I'm going to share my screen again because I do have these ideas. And again, every family is different. So your child, I think, better than anyone. But as I said, it's really important to start early. There are kids who are in 3rd, 4th grade who are vaping. They get it from their older siblings. They get it from an older child in school. And the younger you start, the more detrimental it is. The child's brain is developing, and nicotine can really affect the developing brain, the developing lungs. So it's not a one-time conversation. You have to keep coming at it and come at it in different ways. You'll get the eye roll, you'll get the, oh, mom, I don't want to talk about that, but you have to keep trying. And if you try once and it's not the right time, try again. If you're driving in the street and you see a vape shop, or you see someone vaping or smoking, that might be an interesting way to bring up the topic. So you really have to figure out, a different approach each time to really keep the conversation going. But I think it's also important to understand what you're talking about. You have to get the information. You can get it from school. You can get it from Google. You can get it from your child's friends. Find out what's going on in school. Find out if any of your friends' kids are seeing this, because it's important really to arm yourself with information and to do homework. And you're communicating, you really want to protect your child. You're not lecturing them. And I think as someone said earlier, these devices have such high levels of nicotine. Many kids don't even know they're addicted until they try to stop. And then they start feeling these feelings that they've never felt before. And that's addiction. So it's really important to talk about the health facts. It's important not to exaggerate. And it's important to reach out and, you're part of a community. We have parents around the country, and some parents have reached out to their kids' coaches and had their coaches help them. Other parents have reached out to their faith-based organizations, and asked, someone at their local church to speak with their child. So, I think you really have to figure out what works for you and your family. But I think the most important message is that start talking from a young age. And be receptive. If you shut them down right away, they're not going to come back to you. So you have to be receptive, and you have to keep your feelings as much as you can. And I know personally it's not easy, but hold your feelings in until you really get a grasp of the situation, and then reach out around you for help. So there's more information on our website, which is on the bottom of this page. And I'm not sure if this will be printable, but all of our websites have the information that you need. Thanks, Portia.
Yeah, thank you. So we're really close on time today, and to all of you, thank you. I want to have one last question, or I have one last question to ask of you. If you could answer it pretty succinctly in one sentence, that'd be great. So here's the question. What can parents and teachers do to fight back against the predatory marketing of big tobacco? And how can they get involved at the local level, the state level, or the national level? And I'm going to start with you, Caroline. Can you answer that for us?
Yeah, and there's a lot you can do. So we, Tobacco Free Kids, in coordination with PAVe and all of our partners, have campaigns across the country at the state, local, and federal level to prohibit flavored tobacco products. So we'd love for you to get involved if you're interested in that. You can reach out to partnerships@tfk.org to learn more information, and we can also share if there's campaigns potentially happening where you are.
And Amy, what would you say?
Sure. I would say get our curriculum, get your principal informed about this, get your school counselors. Usually our curriculum is used in health class. Just let teachers know that this resource is available. It's free. And then also, if you're talking to other friends or family members and their children are dealing with their kids who are vaping, please get This Is Quitting available to put it in front of young people. Again, it's DITCHVAPE to 88709. It is a proven effective program that speaks to kids and helps them quit.
And Dorian,
Thank you, Portia. I would say go to our website, parentsagainstVaping.org, or any of our social media to find a community of parents. You're not alone. If you know that your child is vaping, you are not alone. And you can find your state on our website. And, as Caroline said, there are local campaigns around the country. So reach out, look on your state, see what's happening in your state. But it can be as simple as Amy said, reach out to your school, reach out to your principal, find out what they're doing, reach out to your pediatrician, just keep talking about it.
With that, I want to say thank you to you, the parents, for listening in today. This topic on teen vaping epidemic and strategies and tools for parents and teachers, at least for me, has really been enlightening. It's engaging, and I hope that it has engaged you and empowered you to go out and to really pay attention to your child and help them and make sure that we together can stop this vaping epidemic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.